How did pop music go from this
If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends.
to this?
I'm the shit. I'm the shit.
When rock legend Jim Morrison said this,
the new generation's music, it might rely heavily on electronics.
who fulfilled his prophecy? Who is the most important artist of the 21st century? In my opinion, the answer to all of these questions is one man. This is All My Homies Love Skrillex. Now, before we answer these questions, it's important to flag that this video is a response to YouTuber Timber on Toast's sick 2021 video, All My Homies Hate Skrillex, which is also a great starting point for the story I'm going to tell today. In that video, he meticulously charts the established and familiar narrative of how Skrillex became the most hated man in music. The story is as follows. At the turn of the 2010s, Skrillex took the UK's beloved dubstep sound and turned it into brostep, an ugly behemoth of silly wub sounds and egregious mid-range bass drops that were marketed to a bunch of frat boys in America. It was so hated because it completely drowned out the genre's almost spiritual origins in South London raves, a genre that played a formative role in shaping London's iconic grime sounds.
Let me see your lighters in the air. Are you stupid in the face?
And also gave us foundational artists like Burial, Marla and even James Blake. But as Timber points out, Skrillex didn't commit this sacrilege alone. This transition was already starting to take place in London around the same time. In the late 2000s, music listening began to shift away from big sound systems in nightclubs and into bedrooms, where tracks were now primarily consumed on shitty in-ear headphones and tinny laptop speakers. These devices couldn't capture the physical, low-frequency bass tones that made dubstep so special, so in a movement that became known as tear-out dubstep, bass lines were pushed up into the higher mid-range frequencies that could be heard at home. Basically, it went from sounds like this
We don't wanna work tonight
to sounds like this. Already you can kind of see where Skrillex slots in here. So why don't all your homies hate Koki too? The difference is that Skrillex zeroed in on these mid-range bass frequencies and took them to completely new heights. Skrillex's debut album, Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, topped charts, won Grammys and became a defining internet aesthetic. It was so successful, in fact, that it completely overshadowed the OG UK dubstep scene from which it originated. Being a huge fan of UK dubstep growing up, I was blown away by Timber's video when it dropped. But in recent years, I've started to realize there's a different side to this story, one that starts much earlier. Back in 1969, The Doors frontman and Tragic 27 Club alumni Jim Morrison made a prediction.
I can kind of envision one person with a lot of machines, tapes, and electronic setups, singing or speaking. And
this is important because almost 50 years later, when The Doors' surviving drummer John Densmore found himself in a studio session with Skrillex as part of the Grammys 2011 Regeneration documentary, he referenced this prediction, announcing,
"Our singer said in the future that maybe music will be made by one guy with a bunch of machines, and I think you're it, so I thought I better get educated."
To Densmore, Skrillex was the digital future of rock music that Morrison had envisioned 5 decades earlier. Of course, Skrillex wasn't the first electronic artist, but he does mark something of a turning point. Skrillex's music might have been rooted in and shared a name with dubstep, but his melody writing was low-key just pop music. Just listen to the countless videos replaying the lead Scary Monsters melody on different instruments. Skrillex was in many ways just a prop producer using a hardcore dubstep or brostep sonic palette. His legendary run on festivals and award shows in the early 2010s then marked a profound transition. For the first time, electronic music was no longer for the nightclubs and niche music forums, but for the charts. He was the first in what is now abundantly obvious in mainstream music today. EDM producers are the new rock stars and laptops are their electric guitars of choice. Just take it from 21-year-old UK producer rapper wonder kid Lex Armani. Pretty much told me exactly this a couple of weeks ago. When I was 8 or 9, I remember watching the Miami Ultra performances with Fatboy Slim and Skrillex and Diplo's collaborative project Jack U. Those people were my rock stars. I thought, I want to be a rock star too. I want to do what they're doing. So I got GarageBand on my iPhone and just started playing around. Then when I was 12, I begged my mum for a laptop and started making music on that. Skrillex, who had previously fronted emo rock band from first to last as a teenager in the 2000s, had now become the prototype for a new 21st century kind of rock star.
I think the dance floor is dead, so now we're making rock music.
But But anyway, the point is that this story isn't necessarily about Skrillex, but rather what came after him. You see, to the established guard of music critics in the early 2010s, Skrillex was the most hated man in music. The man who ruined dubstep with his low-hanging fruit of mid-range bass drops and silly wub sounds. But to a generation of kids who grew up hearing his music soundtrack, YouTube fail videos, and blasted out of the dubstep gun on Saint Pro 4, Skrillex represented pure, unadulterated fun. His music was dopamine-inducing, accessible, and crucially, anyone could copy Skrillex on the very same laptops they'd used to discover him. A lot of this is paraphrased from a fascinating interview I did with future pop stars Frost Children and Nina Geraci. So I'm just gonna let them take it from here.
It's also probably a generational thing as well. Like us three, we weren't born into a world without Skrillex, I guess. Like he just kind of has always existed for us. I see like old memes that are like over a decade old where it's like, no Skrillex, a laptop isn't an instrument. And it's like, wow, I can't believe people used to be for real about, like, we don't know any different. Like when you're a kid, you don't think about cultural cringe. You just listen to music and you're like, this just makes me feel good and I don't care why. You hear a super saw or you hear a build up and a drop and you're like, wow, that just makes me like feel epic. We've only known the post Skrillex world, maybe. I can't speak for you guys, but you know what I mean?
No, it's true. I mean, because like what was hyper in 2020 is now like the bass player. Like a 13-year-old whose first song that they memorized from the radio is like Gnarly by Cat's-Eye. They're just going
literally.
They're just gonna think, oh yeah, like that's how like songs sound. Yeah, and imagine you're that kid listening to Sophie after and you're like, yeah, sounds like normal music.
Sounds like Cat's-Eye.
This shifting relativity of what is hyper in the post-Skrillex world is central to understanding pop music today. Just listen to Underscore's You, which is already emerging as an early contender for Album of the Year. Or Nina Geraci's breakout Coachella set a couple of months ago. Even to Hollis, who was recently cited as a key reason why EDM is taking off in China right now, and whose mum was literally Skrillex's manager.
I'm the only choice to grasp peace. Love me, you make it far too easy.
These are literally the most important artists of our generation, and to quote my favourite journalism podcast,
it's interesting to note that this is the ultimate long tail product of Skrillex, and when a load of like 12-year-olds, mainly in America, got into electronic music and producing through that kind of music.
On an even deeper level, however, Skrillex doesn't just represent the sounds of young people today, but he also speaks to their experiences. I'm 27, and for many people of my generation who have spent their whole lives immersed in the internet, the world feels pretty bleak right now. Every day we're bombarded with images of genocide, warnings of impending polycrisis, and are constantly manipulated by digital psyops. At home here in the UK, meanwhile, we're being failed by our political systems and our financial prospects are diminishing. It low-key sucks. Growing up, I'd hear my parents talk about the second summer of love at the turn of the 1990s, how they were the first rave generation, flocking to free parties in the British countryside, taking ecstasy for the first time and seriously believing that love could change the world. In interviews, meanwhile, I hear about how techno was the soundtrack to political revolution during the fall of the Berlin Wall, and more recently in protests against the far-right government in Georgia. But when I look at nightlife scenes today, I see a generation of young people who simply can't afford that level of hope. Globally, the serious all-black uniform of techno is on the out, and donk, hardcore, and EDM pop stars are coming in. Scenes that are laced with irony, silliness, and an all-consuming maximalism that reflects today's age of digital overload. Far from looking to change the world through raving, Gen Z experience to me is defined by a sense of nihilistic hedonism in the face of impending doom. And Skrillex's recent resurgence is a pretty good reflection of that. Just listen to his latest albums, Fuck You Skrillex, You Think You're Andy Warhol But You're Not, or Soma, and you'll find that for want of a better word, they're pretty fucking jokes. You've got drops being confiscated by Atlantic Records.
This beat drop has been seized by Atlantic Records and has been replaced with silence.
It's the Harlem Shake soundbite. And even bad vocal takes all being woven into the music itself.
Just bigger than
The core idea here is, fuck the serious music. The world's serious enough as it is. Now, of course, we've taken some pretty broad liberties with the history of electronic music here. None of these artists would have existed without the likes of PC music pioneers Sophie and A.G. Cook, experimental wizards like Squarepusher and Aphex Twin, electronic pop pioneers Daft Punk, even right back to Jamaican dub visionary Lee Scratch Perry, who by many accounts invented the first digital sample, a pitch-shifted recording of a baby crying on 1968 hit People Funny Boy. In many ways, the entirety of electronic and mainstream music all comes from this one moment. Hip-hop, Madonna, Britney, dubstep, even Skrillex, they all come from this first digital sample, so Come to think of it, does that actually mean Skrillex is the future of dubstep? I'll leave that up to you. What isn't up for debate, however, is that Skrillex has had one of the most incredible redemption arcs in music history. From being almost universally ridiculed to becoming a global north star for future pop artists today, helping to democratize access to the charts and articulate the sheer fuckery of today's hyper-digital reality. To me, Skrillex's true legacy is only just now starting to emerge. While it's ultimately pretty arbitrary to say whether one artist or the other is the most influential of the last 25 odd years, what I can tell you is that nowadays, not gonna lie, all my homies fucking love Skrillex.